All right, who are my Carlton Davis fans? Anybody out there who's on the boat of we must re-sign Carlton Davis? Well, if you are a we must re-sign Carlton Davis, that's the bad news. I told you this title is Detroit Lions got good and bad news. I think it's time to move on from him. And the reason is because of something he just said recently. The Athletic has an article that came out, Lions Carlton Davis on his free agency approach. This time, I ain't going to settle for less. You know what that means? That means you're going to need to pay the guy. You're going to need to pay the guy large amounts of money if you want him to hang around. He actually did dive a little bit deeper into that one. He said this. He said, I feel like last time I just kind of panicked. I was younger. My mindset was I need to go ahead and just choose. At the time, the thinking was this is the offer. And the more you wait, the more that number's going to go down. Yeah, that can happen. But teams know your value. And right now, I'm playing my best football. This time, I ain't going to settle for less. Okay. So if he's not going to settle for less, what does he want? He said he wants to be paid like a top 10 or 15 cornerback in this league. He just got done with a 3-year, $45 million deal. He just got done being paid $15 million. Now, 3 years ago, when he was paid $15 million, that was a good amount for a corner. So that means this year, I would imagine he wants somewhere north of $18 million a year, and he's going to want it on a 3 or 4 year deal, probably a 4-year deal where it's kind of 3 years. You know how NFL contracts work. If it's 4 years, the guaranteed money usually runs out mostly after the 3rd year. That's the way it goes. That lines up with what a top 10 corner makes. Right now, the 10th highest paid corner makes $19.1 million. That's L'Jarius Sneed of the Tennessee Titans. L'Jarius Sneed coming out, and when he signed that contract, he was a better corner than Carlton Davis. So that is the bad news side of it, is that I think there's a really good chance that the Detroit Lions are going to lose Carlton Davis, who looks like he is going he's honestly, he wants to get paid. And who can blame him? You know, this is probably the last big contract he's going to get. He's 28 years old. The next time around, he's going to be 31, 32, 33, somewhere in there. People aren't going to want to spend big money on a corner. And honestly, his career will be pretty much over at that point, because very rare for corners. You have to be elite, and he's not elite. You have to be elite in order to play into your like 34, 35-year-old seasons. You just do. Big play slays one of them. All right, here's the good news, because there is good news. I said good and bad. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about a few different guys that we could get in replace of him. I'll give you an expensive, a middle of the road, and a cheap. And then I want to look at our roster and tell you how the answer might be there, especially when we look at who our new defensive coordinator is and what I think are going to be some of the changes that he's going to have. So Pride of Detroit now came out with a great article, 3 cornerback options. The first one is DJ Reed. I believe DJ Reed actually is already a better corner. And I believe his market value is going to be right around that 15-ish million. If you were going to pay even money, I actually might want to give it to DJ Reed. I know that sounds crazy. Can have the ability to play. He can have the ability to be a little bit healthier. I think it makes a lot of sense for me. He's coming off a 3-year deal as well. But again, 28 years old. This is a guy who's in a very similar position to Carlton Davis. I don't think this is the go. I don't think this is the route you go. I think you go with one of the other 2 guys. You have a guy like Mike Hilton. This is a slot guy more. And I'm going to explain to you why I think it makes sense to get a slot guy here in a second, but not necessarily what's needed. Mike Hilton, he goes in the slot. And then what I would be doing in that situation is moving Amik Robertson to the outside. And he showed in the last few games after Carlton Davis got hurt, broke his jaw, that he could play on the outside. He was actually he's significantly better on the outside. I just want to make that really clear. Amik Robertson is better on the outside than he is in the slot. He has played outside corner. He's undersized. We understand that, but he's a grinder. He's a fighter. And I think that he was moved to the slot because we had better outside corners. I think it was more of it's that simple rather than the other way around. I don't think he was in the slot or playing nickel corner because that's where he's better. And then you can always do something like this where you take a flyer on a guy like Eric Stokes. He's a Packer. They declined his 5th-year option. He's had some injuries, but he's a guy who's coming out of college. He was an elite athlete. He was a 4.3 guy, low 4.3s, 4.31 guy. So he's extremely athletic. These are the kind of guys that you absolutely look for and say, hey, if we only need to spend 2, 3, 4, 5 million on a guy like this, get him for a couple years, kind of like we did a Meek Robertson last year, then that could absolutely be something that's beneficial to our team and could definitely go well. But I think there's also another answer that's already here. I think, if I'm being completely honest, that there's a world where, yep, maybe we draft another corner or maybe we pull one, but this is PFF. This is telling us who our cornerback room is right now. And I see 3 guys: Ennis Rakestraw Jr., Terrion Arnold, Amick Robertson. If you told me the Lions were starting the year and that Rakestraw was in the slot in the corner, or slot corner in the nickel, Terrion Arnold was outside and Amick Robertson was the other player outside, I'd want to build depth in that. I would want to build depth in that. So maybe that's where a guy like Stokes comes into play or something like that. Or maybe I don't know if I necessarily want to do it in the draft. I'd rather get a guy. I'd like Darius Slay maybe on a 1-year deal. But I think those 3 pieces would be good enough to have an adequate defense. The reason I say that is not because I think it's an elite position, right? Or our talent is elite at that position. The reason that I'm saying that is because, I mean, it's really simple. Kellen Shepard is going to coach this defense different. And I've talked about this. I think, if I can be entirely honest, Aaron Glenn put so much emphasis on the corner. He asked the corners to do so much that I think that corners actually were set not to thrive in his system and under what he did. I think that he was making the corners do too much. I think he was actually asking them. I do think that he was asking them to do too much. And now that they're just going to be able to do their job, they're going to be able to play corner, and that the linebackers are going to be the center of the defense again, or it's going to be a more well-rounded, well-balanced defense. I think the corners are going to be more protected instead of constantly being on an island. Terrion Arnold played almost 50% of his snaps in man-to-man coverage. That is over double the next highest for any rookie. He was put on an island constantly. All right. If you don't do that to our corners, I think you're going to see our corners start to thrive and do significantly better. All right. Let me know what your thought process is. I really do think we're really, really close in our cornerback room already. We don't need to spend a ton of money. All right. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.